It's now 10:06 and time for the Saturday special with Michael Zwerling.
Griffin Queener,
Yes,
may I ask you a personal question?
go for it.
Have you ever been drunk and stoned simultaneously?
Yeah.
What's it like?
Disorienting, I'd say. More so than
Is it
either by itself.
is it a feeling you enjoy?
Given the right context, yes.
What would the right context be?
I'm surrounded by people I know and trust, and I'm having a good time.
Oh. What did you say, Christopher Carr?
I thought that was a pretty nice answer.
Do you recognize that voice?
Yes, I do.
Tell our audience about I'll bet a lot of the audience recognizes that voice.
Yeah, well, he runs a very interesting program on KSCO.
Probably the most interesting.
Probably.
He just leaves the rest of us in the dust. because what he does, what Christopher Carr does, and he's been doing for years and years and years, right?
That's right.
Is everything cannabis. He is the producer, host, and all around everything of cannabis. And especially the cannabis radio show. Is there anybody in the world who does a cannabis show? Like
There's a lot of podcasts, there's a lot of, but radio, as far as radio, I had just had Ed Rosenthal on, who literally wrote the book on cannabis cultivation in 72.
Was that the guy last night?
Last night, Ed Rosenthal, yeah, he's a world-renowned scholar in cannabis, and the way he opened the show last night, he's like, it's good to have a reoccurring radio program that I can hop on and educate people with, and I think that is something that I had to give props to KSCO, because I don't know of another, talk radio station facilitating this conversation, even though it's one of the most hot, topics in mainstream media, whether it be Forbes magazine, CNN. It's all over the map, but there's just not a lot of in-depth, informed conversation around the subject.
Jeez. And we've been cutting edge for how long? Because of you?
That's right. Since 2015. Since
going
July.
on 5 years?
Going on 5 years, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's an ongoing thing.
Griffin Queener, would you come in here and pat me on the back as the owner of KSCO?
I would, but
nobody ever does that. Nobody ever does that. I mean,
I feel like you get plenty of pats from the viewers. Maybe not physically.
No.
Oh,
Never enough.
Okay, never enough.
No.
All right.
About the best thing I get is an occasional, like 1 out of 100, positive comments about my singing.
That's pretty good.
The other 99 are horrified. And beg me not to. So all I have to do, if you don't want to hear me sing, load up the phone calls, because then we'll have no reason to sing.
Preferably with compliments.
That's right.
Exactly.
Good.
Exactly. With compliments about the radio station, about Griffin Queener, about Christopher J. Carr, about Richard B. Luther II. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so much fun to have Richard B. Luther II. He's very shy and doesn't talk very much. He's one of our esteemed engineers.
That's right.
The one who the quiet one, like George Harrison was the quiet Beatle.
That's right.
Richard B. Luther II is the quiet engineer here at KSCO, but he does have a flashpoint. And do you know what that is, Christopher J. Carr
what is it?
And Griffin Queener?
Is it the moon landing?
No.
No? Is it science?
It's when people bitch about electromagnetic radiation.
Oh, wow. There you go.
He gets really upset because a lot of people do that on talk radio, because it's one of the only outlets where they can do it. AT&T and all the big companies, they just do this,
Yeah.
Bleep you, we don't care what you think. We're going to put out our 5G anyhow because we are AT&T or we are Verizon, and you are nothing. And what you think doesn't count. However, Richard B. Luther II is a NASA-trained engineer.
Wow.
And it bothers him that so many people get so upset about that. And so not only... That's what gets him out of his shell when people are talking about, they're all hysterical about electromagnetic radiation and having cell phones close to your brains and your heart and stuff like that. And he takes the position, not only is it not bad for your health, it's good for your health. The more electromagnetic radiation you expose yourself to, the better.
Wow.
Now, if you don't, now that makes the phones light up.
I bet.
Not much more than a
Controversial.
threat. Not much more than a threat from me to sing. Anyhow, Griffin Queener, I'm very upset. Do you know what idea? How many months has it been that we had the wrong? That's all, folks.
Countless. I have no idea.
Okay,
It's been too long.
I spent an hour in the last week dredging up the original. That's all, folks.
Yeah.
And I had to make a special copy of it so that I could email it to Billy, and he says, "It's been here all along."
What?
I wanted to strangle him. No, I wanted to strangle me and then strangle. No, I'd have to strangle him first, because if I was strangled, then I wouldn't be able to strangle him. I got to get the order right.
The order of
Yeah,
operations.
yeah.
Yep.
You know me, I like to blame everybody else but myself for everything. Especially
That's the way to do it.
Especially the things that I am solely responsible for. And now it says that's all, folks, could not be found. Because it says error loading file.
I saw that when I put it up.
And
yeah.
it's right, and it's red. So would you call Billy and find out? Because I don't
Sure,
want to
yeah.
have another Saturday special go by with us either having the wrong "that's all, folks," which I don't think is even possible. Because I was so elated when I found out that it was back in the system.
Yeah.
But it really isn't, because it's not loading here.
Yeah.
That I told him to get rid of the old one so that there can't be any confusion or mistakes. And so ask him why this, and see if you can do it. Can you run it? Is it there for you? That's all, folks.
I'll try and find it. I don't know if it will be.
Because he's put it back into the system, and the systems mean your computer, my computer, his computer, all of that. But it won't even play. Do you think anybody cares about what we're saying here?
Probably not as much as you do, but it's always good to hear the enthusiasm.
What about Christopher J. Carr? I'll bet they're excited that he's going to be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those of the audience who know who he is. Now, that promo that's been running for the one that says "Join us," that's great. The way he says "Join us." Why don't all of us say that? Join us for everything, for the rapidly evolving cannabis renaissance.
I'm not a pirate. I hope I sound like a pirate.
It's really, really good. Can you find that, Griffin Queener?
I did find a file that says "that's all, folks."
Play it.
I don't know if
play it.
Okay,
And see if it's the right one.
We'll see.
Yeah. That's it.
All right. Well, we'll say
it's
that
so
for you.
good. You could play it 2 or
okay.
3 times, and it'll make up for the old.
That's all, folks.
KSCO. No, you are not dreaming. It is not noontime. We were just proving
That's
that
right.
we still have it. So
Test
because
run.
it's not loading here, Griffin Queener,
I'll have to play it from in here.
you'll have to play it with my cue at T-minus 16 seconds before the end of the radio show. All right. Now, we don't have a promo, but you use the promo for the Cannabis Connection promo, so we can find that. I'm going to play the Good Morning jingle.
Okay.
And then by that time, it's a minute, you'll be able to find it. And then I'll cue you, and you'll be able to play that, right? Just on cue.
Hopefully.
All right? Good.
All right.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, a brighter day is here. Good morning, may we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
I'm going to tell our guests something that I'm not going to say on the air now. And you're just going to have to wonder what it is. Yep. We have a special guest today. I can't believe this is the first time we've had this guest on the Saturday special. But better late than never, don't you think? Yeah, so stay with us until noontime. I think you'll be happy you did. Know what I mean?
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Unfortunately, I couldn't find it.
Oh,
so
no.
We're gonna have to go with that.
Oh, no. This is an outrage, Griffin Queener.
Oh, I don't know what to say for myself, honestly.
Do you think it's in here?
It might be. I just don't know what it's called, honestly.
How about Cannabis Connection promo?
I did look for that, and under Cannabis Connection, there was just all these show elements. There wasn't a promo there, so...
Say it again,
Yeah.
Christopher Carr.
It may be labeled 420 promo.
Okay, 420.
Oh,
420. Yeah,
I think
look.
I found it, actually.
There it is. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Take it.
The Cannabis Connection is the voice of ecological alignment and community empowerment in the California cannabis trade, continuing the Santa Cruz legacy of environmental stewardship and progressive educational realization. Our goal is to fill the void in empirical understanding around cannabis. Join us Fridays, 8 to 9 p.m. on KSCO AM 1080 to engage with informed speakers shedding light on the rapidly evolving cannabis renaissance.
Very, very well worded.
Yeah.
My compliments to the chef, Christopher.
Hey, thank you. I
Yeah.
could even simplify it. I'm listening to it now, and I'm like, oh, I might make it a little easier. It's a little wordy.
Yeah,
it's verbose.
Not only that, well, I wouldn't. I think it's really cool because it demonstrates your extraordinary brain power.
I appreciate that.
Because you've mixed together a word salad. You know,
It's like a word kale salad. It's some very nutritious, big spelling bee words in there. But I think, stigma is a big thing in this industry. And so I'm trying really hard to bring an informed and, an elevated voice to the conversation.
Okay, wait a minute. I've made a terrible error. We finally found his promo, but I have neglected to play the fanfare. I have changed my mind.
Very nice.
I've changed my mind about saying to you off the air what I was tempted to say on the air.
Let's hear it.
Are you really?
Sure.
Okay. I do not want this to be taken the wrong way by you or your last night guest.
Sure.
Okay? Or Griffin Queener or anybody in our KSCO audience. Okay? I don't have the nerve to do this because it's so classless what I'm about to say. It's just not a nice thing at all. But I'm going to couch it in it's wrapped in love.
Sure.
Okay, it really is. Okay. So listen, Griffin Queen. No. Listen, Christopher J. Carr. The program last night I tuned into indeed sounded like the guest was very, very connected and knowledgeable on the topic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ed Rosenthal, anyone that's in the space knows. I think a lot of the growers that are professionals, that are in the industry professionally, started from the books. I think he's an author of 45 different books.
I've heard that name.
And he's his own publisher as well. And he's starting to publish other writers. And when I went to Amsterdam with my wife right before we got married at the beginning of this year, the streets of Amsterdam are full of seed banks, cannabis seeds. And there are many different types of cultivars, types of cannabis that were developed here in Santa Cruz County, but through Prohibition went to Holland
Wow.
And you walk into a seed bank and they ask you where you're from. You say California, and they say where in California. You say Santa Cruz, and before you know it, you get a whole nother menu because of who you know. And then once you mention Ed Rosenthal, who I've sat with many times, a couple times at his house with his wife, all of these seed shop retailers and growers just like they just, it's like fanfare. They just like roll out the red carpet and say, oh, tell me about Ed and tell me about this. And he played it down. I mean, he's in his 70s now, so he's been around for a very long time, and is kind of seen a lot, obviously, but he's been a part of all of these. He played it down last night, but he's been very instrumental in not only the articulation and the education through the books, but just the community has been very much, very close-knit and kind of small. And now we have a burgeoning hemp industry with the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill, which is massive. That's $1 billion already, and it's still in its infancy. And then we have, over half the union having either a medical law or a recreational law. So we're just trying to rewrite this narrative after 80 years of prohibition. Okay. And he was one of those pioneers.
This is so cool. I had no idea that was demand that I was talking to, not talking to, but listening to last night on your show. That's really impressive. Puts a whole new light. However, I'm still going to say what I'm going to say.
Go for it.
That I don't want to. I'm so making such a big deal out of this for a very good reason. You'll understand why, I think, in a minute. I'm a radio guy, and I like to listen to talk radio.
Yeah.
It was painful for me to listen to that talk radio yesterday.
Sure.
Why? Because the guest and the host it sounded like they were a 78 record being played at 33 and a third, or even 16. It was just very, very slow.
Sure.
And to me, there has to be energy in a talk radio Now, I'm not saying that the people who listened, because like I said, I get in the way. I'm just a crazy person when it comes to having to talk fast and with energy in your voice for me to be able to pay attention.
Yeah.
Probably normal people they care about, they probably care about whether the content is worthwhile stuff or stuff they haven't heard before. They learn something.
Yes.
I can't learn something unless the teacher is talking fast and with some energy.
Well, yeah, and I grew up doing theater, and I met my wife doing theater and theater arts major at UCSC before I became a community studies major. And you got to know your audience, and you got to match your ensemble where they're at.
Okay.
I've had shows with Ed before where I did talk fast, and I would lose him. I would lose him. He would get quiet because
is there something
I would upstage him.
Is there something we could give him? Can we goose him or something? Because he's such a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
I want the whole world, because there got to be a few other people like me who
I think if we had a 10 a.m. show, he would be a lot more peppy than an 8 p.m. at the end of the week show. I think it's the night. I think it was past his bedtime. I'll be honest. It may have been past his bedtime.
I hope that's it.
I think that's it. MC.
I hope that's it.
I'm pretty sure because I've had shows with Ed. This is my third show with him, probably.
Just for an experiment. This is about as uncorporate a radio station as can be.
Sure.
As an experiment, let's have Rosie and Alex and the gang sometime this week take the day off from Good Morning Monterey Bay, and you and Ed do three hours.
Give him some coffee.
And some uppers.
Exactly.
I was going to say maybe it's the cannabis.
He has this funny. Right before our show, I did an event at Seascape Resort, and it was like a very corporate style cannabis summit. Not corporate in the sense of like suits, but it was a very, very nice venue. And we did the full 9 yards of hospitality. And he came and spoke during the lunch. And, he's just a character. It's just one of those guys. He has an ongoing joke that he's going to write a book about experimenting on a human subject with intense cannabis saturation for decades, and he's going to write it after he's dead. So it's this ongoing joke because he's just been saturated with cannabinoids for all these years that, he can write the book about what it does to a person. And I think if anything, it might make them talk a little slower. But I also think, he, like I said, it could have been past his bedtime. And I have been on the air with him and been very animated and like I am with any other guests that are, maybe 30-something farmers in Oregon or in the Emerald Triangle or breeders. And, I've noticed if you don't...
On your show or guests on other shows with them where you were like...
on my show specifically, if I don't meet my guests where they're at, they dry up as far as the content, so I have to meet them where they're at. That's totally...
I get it. I get it. You're a pro. You really are.
I was trying to just give him
your
plenty
show
of
should
flow.
not be buried at 8 o'clock on it should be morning drive.
It's so funny.
It should really be... But with only if we can get more energy.
Well, and
now I know you can do it.
No, absolutely. We actually tried really hard. I have this brand new state-of-the-art entrepreneur in Montreal, Alan of Strainley, who was going to do a pre-record. Unfortunately, we couldn't time it right because he's on the East Coast. And so Ed actually came in as a friend to fill a void that we had because we couldn't make the arrangements here for... His name's Alan. He's doing open source breeding and biodiversity conservation using all of this interesting technology. And that's what's happening in the space is now that you see not only decriminalization but legalization happening on a global level, then you have other entrepreneurs in adjacent spaces like blockchain technology, like open source tech. I work with a couple tech entrepreneurs myself and over the hill, which I would have never thought going into this work that I would be really involved in tech and doing a lot of research in the blockchain. These are all, disruptive industries, and in many ways, cannabis is also going to be very disruptive to the medical industry and big pharma. I think there's a big conversation there to be had.
Disruptive. Won't they just, sink their teeth into it and take it away from all the rest of us?
That's the assumption, but the reality of the flower is you can't isolate one compound to get the desired effects. It's the full spectrum benefits that are achieved through a full spectrum product, and most pharmaceutical products are synthetically derived isolations of a certain, like for antihistamine, it's one compound. For an analgesic, it's another compound. The panacea, the magic behind cannabis is a combination of an entourage effect of the cannabinoids, which everyone is aware of, but also the terpenoids, the esters, the flavonoids. These are all the different...
Are the esters the things that smell?
That's right. The terpenes, too, are the smells. And, that's why they put limonene in cleaning products. That's why Pine Sol smells the way it does, is it actually produces a pharmacological effect of euphoria while you clean and mop your floor.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah. And that's in the flower, but you can't put that in a pill. They haven't figured out how do we get this whole entourage into a pill. That's why Big Pharma is struggling to sink into this space. So there is a really cool opportunity here for creative entrepreneurs and more smaller farmers that have a boutique offering. Because when you factory farm or do a large scale grow, you want consistency. So diversity can be an issue. But when we're looking at cancer confronting treatments, the full spectrum, the data goes the full spectrum route, which is the opposite of big pharma formulations.
Wow.
Yeah.
We are talking today on the Saturday special with Christopher J. Carr and his orchestra. And we're talking all things cannabis, all things marijuana, all things getting high, and all things,
and not getting high.
And still being productive.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, now, may I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Are you high a good portion of the time or not? And it's a real personal question because you have the coolest disposition of any human.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And because I've never ever, not that I see you all that much, but
sure.
I've seen you plenty of times over the years.
Oh, of course.
And never once have I observed you being cranky or irritable.
Well, no, and I'm
And
not.
everybody
It's not
else
that I'm-
around here, maybe Griffin Queener hasn't been cranky and irritable. He's just been sick. He just throws up, when he has food poisoning and stuff.
Oof, that's not fun.
No.
But cannabis can help nausea. That's for sure.
There you go. So does the cannabis have anything to do? Are you just naturally,
I'm pretty natural.
pleasant person?
I'm pretty natural. Growing up, they called me Smiley, and when I moved,
Growing up, even too.
Yeah.
Because
Like I said, I did the theater thing. I was always a ham. I was always into comedies and farces, and I had these big caterpillar eyebrows and very expressive on stage. And I just said, why be any other way? I would kind of took that as my own little brand. And moving to Santa Cruz, I moved to Santa Cruz in 2008, and the only person I knew in Santa Cruz was the musician whose room I took. And so I had to start from scratch right out of high school, moving to a new place, going to Cabrillo, and that's how I was able to meet people. It's just having a sunny, smiley disposition, and that it kind of.
So that's just okay. That's
it's
so
just in
cool.
there. It's just in there. It's just how it is.
That is a very, very personal question. I'm happy that you were not offended by my asking.
It's okay, and I don't.
It just seems like you're just too happy to be naturally happy. I thought you were on something all the time.
I just with theater too. You got to fake it till you make it too. So sometimes when you smile, it kind of tricks you to being happy too.
Oh man. I want to read a page. No, I want to adopt a page from your book. No, I want to adopt your whole book so I can be happy all of the time instead of once in a while.
No, it's great. Well, and you got to do what you love. And I'm blessed outside of cannabis to have a wonderful wife and great friends. And I play music. I have an outlet. I kind of transitioned from the theater thing to playing music, and we have a show today. We're going to play at the Tannery Arts Festival, the Circumference Festival.
What instrument do you play?
I play guitar and bass. In the band, I play bass.
Like string bass?
Yeah, like electric Fender precision bass or jazz bass.
How long did it take you, and when did you start to learn this? Probably when you were a youngster.
Yeah, when I was a youngster, my mom really pushed my brother and I to learn piano, which was the foundation of music theory and just understanding how to read music, how to play music. And I taught myself guitar in high school because
there's so many people who say that. How do you teach yourself something like that?
I
can't be taught by anybody.
It was
so
definitely
I'm
motivated. I was a young, man and wanted to impress beautiful girls I went to school with, and I couldn't bring a keyboard out every party I went to. So I sat down when I was 15. And my mom, for my birthday, my 15th birthday, we got a very starter Johnson acoustic guitar, steel string, and a book. And I started learning off the book, and it took a while to develop those calluses. But thank goodness for her teaching or, encouraging us to learn piano starting at 3rd grade. I was able to kind of transcribe what I knew about bass clef, treble clef, looking at it on a linear and then transcribing that to a fretboard. And it wasn't easy, but it was certainly worth it. And I also had, the guy at the Placerville music store would help teach me how to tune my guitar. And, you meet other people along the way that will make an impact, that'll look out for you. And I try to pay that forward. Before cannabis, I worked at the Boys and Girls Club and was trying to teach kids, basic music theory on keyboards that were donated or even guitars. And even the lead singer of my band, Tomas, was in the downtown Boys and Girls Club location.
Wow.
Teaching music, and so you do need someone to look out for you when you're young, but once you get a foundation, you can kind of build upon it.
How about if you're just starting out when you're old like me?
Oh, I would say, I'd be happy to show you around. You just need to get a guitar and a good book.
I have one.
You do? Great.
No, I don't know if I have a good book.
Yeah, I can get you a good book. I got some at my house.
And is it better than like there's the YouTube, videos?
Oh, well, and that's the thing. I didn't have YouTube when I was a kid, but
Right.
you could use YouTube. I'm sure there's amazing.
But you really have to discipline yourself.
That's the thing. You have to do it.
So you have to want it so badly.
You have to do it every day. Yeah, for a while. I mean, once you have your calluses and once you're proficient on a few songs. You can.
Can I take something or smoke something that will accelerate the callus development?
So. I mean, no.
I'm so impatient.
I know how it is.
I'm naturally impatient.
I know how it is. It's hard. It took time. I even, and with bass guitar too, it's a different kind of callus. So you'll get blistered up if you don't play, because they're bigger strings and they're harder on your hands. And I actually taught myself bass because I knew guitar. And so I was never taught any of the stringed instruments I play. It all came from knowing piano.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, and I'm humbled by my brother. I have friends and family in my life that are just even more advanced. He taught himself violin. He taught himself all these other instruments. So, just learning guitar, bass was an easy second.
So, yeah, your life must be awfully full and rich, and that's fantastic, doing what you love to do.
Sure.
And recreating, doing what you like to do.
Yeah, you put them together.
I guess most people do,
You put them together, yeah. We make money playing music, but it's not why we play. We make money stewarding cannabis, but it's not why we do it. I mean, money comes and money's important. I am a prudent entrepreneur and definitely want to make sure that everything is fed and nurturing itself. You don't want to do something and have the juice not worth the squeeze.
I have a friend who has a family member. He shared with me, and I won't say, but I thought it was fascinating that family member is working in the cannabis industry.
Wow.
And the family member has a box of $1 million in cash. I said, why is it? Well, because they're still trying to get the banking.
That's a
stuff.
big conversation. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. No, it's a cash only industry, yet it's one of the fastest growing industries. It's going to it's going to overshadow a lot of the big money from tech very soon, especially the hemp side. And that's the issue of this federal scheduling.
Well, why don't they do something about that? I suppose
not for lack of trying. They have been trying. It's an issue with the federal scheduling one. Even though we do have, with the 2018 Farm Bill, they descheduled hemp, and hemp is a legal definition for cannabis. There's no differences. It's like me and my cousin, because I have brown hair and they have blonde hair, we're still Carrs. I mean, it's like we're from the same family. There's no, but I do have a phenotypical difference, right? I have a brown eyes and black hair, and they have blue eyes and blonde hair, but the brown eyes and black hair is considered hemp, and the blue eyes and blonde hair are considered cannabis, quote, I'm doing air quotes, the THC rich. And so in a way we have descheduled, air quotes, cannabis, but we have this legal definition of what's descheduled, which is 0.3 or less THC, which is kind of, it's not if, it's when will the feds deschedule all cannabis. Once that happens, all merchant services, all banking will feel confident. But right now it's considered high risk.
Are there some of them that are confident enough?
The local credit unions.
If you don't feel like having a box of $100 bills.
That's right. Yeah, you can work with.
You have to worry about getting stolen.
What we've seen in Humboldt County and Santa Cruz County, all along the coast of California, our local credit unions are the ones that will do banking with cannabis operators. But the big banks, the Chases, the Wells Fargos, they're having trouble working with the FDIC because they have to have a lot of they're just on another level, and these more local credit unions are a little more flexible to work with. But I agree. I think that is a very dysfunctional piece to our business, is having it only be cash, and having $1 million in a box is very insecure. And it's not smart in a way.
That's
it's not smart.
That's the only story I know of.
Oh,
You've
no.
probably heard of that a lot. And people who have more than $1 million.
Way
in a
more.
box.
Well, and there's still farms that may or may not be legal, or that are transitioning, that have been burying, massive amounts of cash since the early 90s. And that's all over the Northern California. And yeah, there are many families too that may not be partaking, they may not be growing anymore, but their ranches have hundreds of thousands buried every, acre, and they're sitting on 80 plus acres. So it's all over. But that was kind of this weird gray area. The medical era gave us legal immunity. It didn't give us a regulated industry. We went from legal immunity to full-on legal. And I was kind of hoping we could have a medical market that was regulated before we went recreational. But we kind of went from 0 to 60 without that in between. And that's why we're seeing a lot of dysfunction in the industry around merchant services, around banking, around taxation, and compliance.
So are you saying then that the local what do you call them? It starts with R.
The retailers or recreational?
Well, no.
Regulators.
No. The places where you go to buy the stuff.
Dispensaries?
Dispensaries.
There you go.
See, I said it. It started with R, right? See?
Retailers.
Yeah. Anyhow, there's a bunch of those around here.
Yeah, we do have a very nice...
And are you saying that those people all either bury their money...
Not anymore.
Or, okay, they don't... Yeah,
they work with...
The farmers used to, and
it's
maybe...
the farms and the dispensaries.
They go to the dispensaries.
The dispensaries have credit union accounts.
Okay.
They do operate a lot in cash. I think a lot of the tax money is paid in cash, but they do have payroll. They do have, like any other business, they have business accounts and expenses that the credit union is happy to work with them on. I do believe these dispensaries have to pay a risk fee every month for those business accounts. So they are paying to have a regular account that, let's say I'm a construction worker with a staff of 10 people, they don't have that kind of cost. So it's a challenge.
You got to have certain rules that are in place. I don't know what the rule is, but I've heard that, people that are in cash exclusive businesses are frowned upon by the banking or by the IRS or the Franchise Tax Board or whomever, and as a result, I don't know what the rule is. Is it $5,000 or $10,000? If there's a certain threshold when you go into a bank, if you have that threshold or more, they generate a red flag, to the IRS or something. It's like getting a 1099, except you get it every time you put in more than X number of dollars. And because they want to make sure that you're paying your taxes like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
So do they have different rules?
That risk fee is part of that. It kind of takes it all into one cohesive sum that is charged on a monthly basis, because
depending upon how much money
and that's the reason why, is because they're consistently coming in with such large cash deposits. And the opposite is when you pay your taxes to the state, you're going to pay in cash. They're not really writing. They deposit and withdraw large sums of cash, and that's the nature of the business. How do you pay your taxes in
cash?
With a briefcase, and you walk in, and you go to the state, and you open up a briefcase, and I've seen stacks of 10,000.
I thought they'd think you're mocking them.
No.
And they'd throw the book at you.
And that's the funny ongoing thing is the state of California had a bill that went to the assembly that I think was passed. I don't think the governor has signed it yet, but they want to build a state of California bank specifically for this industry so that we can just get rid of all of this farcical nonsense of walking in with $100,000 just to pay taxes, cash.
I have a name for it right now. I'm not gonna say what it is because during the break I'm gonna run and register the URL.
There you are. You should.
Yeah.
You should. It's gonna get passed. I'm pretty confident, and it's gonna be. California is the largest cannabis market in the world. If you look at all the numbers of Washington and Colorado, all the billions of dollars generated in tax money, that equates to about 11% of the city of Los Angeles market. Those states, the whole state.
Wow.
So, and that's one city, and we have over 400 different, counties. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe it's 52 counties. But that's just one city and one county in the state of California. And it's not even a large amount. It's 11% of the LA market. So what we're about to be, and again, this is still in its infancy. This is still very dysfunctional. There's still a lot of Band-Aids, and the analogy that the state gives is we're flying the plane as we build it. And so we haven't even finished building the plane yet. We're already, soaring through the atmosphere. And so this is that's why I'm so honored to be here at KSCO and to cover this beat and to be a part of it too. And that's the thing, is I walk the walk, I talk. It's a very stimulating space, but it's very challenging too. I enjoy what I do, but I'm also documenting a very historical shift here.
Would you say that your occupation is a cannabis grower / advocate?
Yeah, that's a pretty good way of putting it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and that your avocation or your hobby is music?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, no, I was traditionally, before legalization, a musician and an educator.
You made most of your living through music, either performances or teaching.
I did exactly, and when I got really into this space professionally was opening a dispensary with the two owners, Kind People's Collective. And so I managed a brick and mortar shop for a while. But after, the progression of my career became more me as an entrepreneur versus working for someone else. And becoming self-employed was a big step in 2017, and getting the process going for the farm. Was great. And that forced me to take the radio seriously, to leverage all these relationships. Consultant, I consult. I help solve problems, and I also help network. I'm a bit of a dot connector in this space, and problem solver, matchmaker. And in a space where it has been in prohibition for 80 years, who is very valuable.
Oh my God! In every business.
Every business, of course.
Every endeavor.
That's right, of course. And so through this journey here at KSCO over these 5 years, I meet someone new every week by default. And through this,
because people contact you. Oh, I hear you have a radio show.
It's the opposite. I contact them.
Oh.
If I read something interesting in the New York Times,
it's an entree for you.
It's a great way to introduce myself, and then we build rapport over a radio show, and then next thing I know, we are doing business somehow. I find ways to help them. They pay it forward. Next thing you know, we're doing transactions, or I've introduced them to a buyer, or they are buying from someone I know. So it's just that's kind of real estate works that way, I'm sure.
I'm fascinated because I could go on for hours and hours and hours, and we haven't even opened the phone lines, and there aren't any callers.
Okay.
So now that probably means that it's just moving along just
I agree.
fine.
I think it's great.
And you don't get many callers or on your shows, or do you?
Not too much. I mean, we have a few that call in and they'll just listen. It's a way of them. I had a couple regulars from Oklahoma and Texas that would just call and listen and wait on hold. And that was kind of a fun. That was the other thing that I realized is here we are in Santa Cruz having this conversation, but people found KSCO all the way out in Oklahoma because of the subject, because of what we're talking about. And they were, older Vietnam vet guys that would just listen because they don't have internet. So they just call in.
Christopher Carr, what do you think? I guess it doesn't matter in this age of high tech and on-demand archiving and stuff like that. But, just from a natural radio perspective, and maybe you are in the absolute perfect space, 8 o'clock on Friday nights. But is it possible that we should explore a different, more prime radio time? Or is that just not in the cards for you anyhow? Because
I'm very committed to the radio. I'm very committed to this platform of audio. You can see it having a renaissance in the platform, in the podcast. Look at Joe Rogan. He's a podcast guy, kind of a MMA, martial arts enthusiast, yet he has a bigger audience than all the cable news channels combined because of this platform of voice and audio and building rapport, through listening, whether you're driving to work or working in the garden. Or the cool thing about this type of entertainment and content creation is people can actually do other things while listening. And I think it's really timely what we're up to. And I think cannabis is just we're right in the infancy of this conversation. So getting more out to more people, I'm all about it. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. I'm just getting all kinds of cool ideas about what we should be talking about. But we do have a couple of callers now, and I might as well make it official. By the way, here it is, 10:52. We've almost blown through the first hour, and we haven't done a promo for the Dave Cave. Dave Michaels is out there, and he is suffering the residual effects of Dave Cave sale-itis, which is another way of saying that incredible buy two, get one free deal has been extended today.
Nice.
For people, I'm sure people were tearing their hair out yesterday. So you better get down here before 7, because then it goes away. And so, we didn't want to cause any wrecks or any fatalities or anything.
Keep it safe.
But he will be in the cave, I believe, until 2 p.m. Griffin Queener, it's only 8 minutes to the break. I'll go out there and see how Dave is doing. And actually, he has a studio out there. He has his own console out there, so he doesn't need to come in here to do a promo and talk about all the wonderful things. You can't ping him, can you? There isn't a little buzzer or anything. He has to be listening, and I think he has customers. But
I can go over there and check for you. We have 7 minutes, and we've got the two callers.
We do have the two callers. Okay, yeah. Why don't you do that and just have him chime in? You click your board so that all he has to do is just open his mic and he's on.
All right.
And you could even be in there with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Now, so let's see what callers we have today. Nathan.
Hey, how you been?
Nathan in Santa Cruz.
How you been?
I've been pretty good. How have you been?
Well, I was just calling in to check on you, see if you came down off those edibles yet.
Now, Christopher Carr, I should tell you this story.
Nathan knows.
Yeah, he knows. But all of the listeners to the KSCO Saturday special know.
I love you, man.
They might be putting 2 and 2 together.
Uh-oh.
I have
some Friday night and your Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Something happened.
Yeah. Yeah. We agree. The last thing I remember before I ate all 3 of the delicious candies was that I said to the kindly person who gave me the delicious candies, when I expressed concern that I don't, I have a very low threshold of this.
Low tolerance. Very low tolerance.
Doesn't matter. No big deal. There's hardly any THC in these things. So that's the last thing I thought of. And when the first delicious candy was so delicious, I said, well, what the hell? I'll just take the other 2.
That's like the brownies, man.
And I still have not recovered.
I know.
Yeah, you have. Yes, you have. You have been asking the most clearest questions. You walked in a day later with a hot dog, and everybody's like, wow, that is an extremely big hot dog. And you were asking the most intellectual questions like, why do people do this? And I thought that was the most
amazing
question.
It was pretty scary.
It was, but you know what? You didn't have a coach. I told you. You don't just hand somebody something. Okay, so you don't take a gun without a firearm instructions, do you?
No, you're right. I should have coached him.
You gave it to him?
Well, it was
You're
a
the
group.
one who I didn't
That's
out
you.
You outed yourself.
I outed myself. Oh, I have to take.
did.
I have to take. Oh, I was explicit saying there's THC. We're launching.
You were giggling the whole time you were telling him that. And he can take a joke. He thinks Michael thinks that everything is funny.
No, and I think there was other people in the room when I gave them to Michael that
He's having a flashback right now.
that have a much larger tolerance, and they were the ones saying, "Oh, you barely feel it."
A flea
Right,
would
okay.
have a better tolerance than
Oh,
me.
my God.
A
But that's it.
parakeet would have.
Anyhow, getting back to the basics. So the Dave Cave is still having a sale, right? I have a very good friend of mine. She's pushing 80 or something. And she wanted to know if there's a sliding scale or something like where she could purchase. She's on a fixed income. She's a very good woman.
Well, that
she's lacking vitamins and minerals, dude. That's the only thing she's really lacking.
She or a friend, hint, can help her stock up. Because I've never seen there. We've never had a better deal than this. We just haven't.
I know. That's why I was calling in to find out. You know what? I'll if I could get Dave's number to Dave Cave, but I just want to find out because I'm not the only one. I have a lot of people want to buy some longevity products, but they're on such a fixed income, and they don't even know how much they cost because they don't know how to use the internet. So I'm kind of like an intermediate, you know.
I see.
So it's like I don't.
Are
know how to
you
explain
far
to them.
away from the
I'm in
station?
Santa Cruz.
Okay,
I can see your towers from here, bro.
So can you come by and say that to Dave? Might be listening, but I doubt it. He has the radio.
Yeah.
He has the radio on, but he's got customers, right?
Well, good. I'm glad he's got customers, but I'm trying to get him more, okay? And it's like I have a lot of elderly people out here that just don't understand vitamins, minerals, or even the term deficiency.
Okay, well, Dave, I don't mean to pass the buck.
No, please do.
But, okay, I'll pass the buck.
You ain't running the Dave Cave.
I'll
Dave,
pass
from
the buck
Dave
to
Cave, not
Dave.
the Michael Cave.
Yeah, okay, Nathan, this is great.
That's fun.
Please,
I love y'all guys, man. Y'all really keep me going sometimes, man. I tell you, I sweep, I clean, I help these elderly folk and friends of mine.
will you come on down, sometime in the next hour or two? Because Dave will be here.
Man, I'm cooking a pot of beans right now, bro.
Bring them too. We'll eat them.
Yeah, I know. I'll bring you a hot dog. How about that? You just walked into the station and you're like, wow, dude, that is an extremely large wiener you have in your hand. You're like, yeah, and it's good, too.
Yeah.
So,
No, that was a Corralito sausage.
whatever.
Yeah,
You
it
know
wasn't
what?
a
I was
hot
down at
dog.
Big
I don't
Sur.
even like hot dogs.
I was down at Big Sur over the week and passed a slide, right? Oh, my God, dude, $25 for a 12-pack of Sierra Nevada, but it was worth it. But anyhow, this guy had a shirt on. It says, everything's fun and games until somebody loses a wiener. And it's got this shirt, and it's these kids holding their hot dogs over the fire.
Right. Okay, yeah, to drop it in the fire would be
It's tragic.
horrible.
Yeah, dude, I watched it happen like 4 times because I ate one too many brownies.
Wow.
I had a coach, but he's a 14-year-old Rottweiler. So he's just telling me, drop the weenie. I don't care, dude. I'm here for you.
Right.
All right, yeah, I'll, if you can, I'll call back later and
Well, call 475-1080 and
I know.
and Griffin, I
do your
think, can
promo, dude.
transfer.
You guys do a commercial, you're gonna get fined.
Okay.
All right.
I'll figure it out. Thank you so much, Nathan. Always great to hear from
you.
you. I think we have 40 seconds left.
I think
Are
so.
these clocks right?
They're right.
They're all different. How can they all be right?
Yeah, they look right to me.
All right.
You have exactly 30 seconds right now.
Okay.
Great.
All right. So, Griffin Queener, how can I thank you for your stupendous job running the first hour?
I have no idea, but I can tell you that Dave will be in at the top of next hour, because that's what he informed me of.
Very good.
Good. Okay, that's the end of hour number 1 with Christopher J. Carr. KSCO Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey, San Jose. It's
Rain or anything like that. All right, it is 11:06 and time to return to the Saturday special with Michael Zwerling and Christopher Carr. And it looks like Dave, too.
Won't this be fun? Wait a minute. Can you? I don't hear anything.
You don't hear
Hello?
anything?
Now I hear something.
Okay.
I should turn the volume up. How did it get turned down?
I don't know.
I've just been sitting here. Nobody else is coming here. I can't blame anybody else for turning it down and not leaving it the way they found it. Dave Michaels.
Hey, MZ. You can always
Dave.
blame somebody else, MC.
Dave Michaels. Can I blame you?
You can let's blame Griffin.
Griffin. Griffin Queener.
I will shoulder the blame.
Okay.
That will be my role.
Nathan, if you're still listening, call back and we'll arrange for you to have your private conversation with Dave Michaels where all of us can eavesdrop.
All right.
It'll be more
Who's Nathan?
more efficient that way.
I missed that.
A great caller.
Uh-huh.
He's a great caller. You know why? Because he ladles the compliments all over me and the radio station.
That helps.
You know?
Right.
Right. And you know, ever since we got cured of cancer here at KSCO, there's a lot of positivity. You know, there's a whole lot of positivity, and there's more Christopher J. Carr type vibes around the place. You know,
Right.
Which is, don't you think?
Yeah. I absolutely.
Okay, now
see
tell
that.
us about the Dave Cave today. And we have plenty of the BTT stuff, right?
yeah.
If they want to do that.
Right.
That extension of the.
We've got plenty of tangy tangerine, both kinds, both the original and the 2.0. Plenty of OsteoFX and plenty of glucogel, and that's good because that's the package that I recommend to almost everybody. Almost everybody needs that. Can I tell you why, real quick?
Please.
Okay.
Come on.
I don't want to waste a bunch of.
No.
the
It's
time
fine.
here.
It's fine.
Tangy tangerine, everybody knows by now, is your complete mineral supplement. There are 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and maybe some other good stuff. Maybe a little bit of magic too. But there's 60 minerals in there. Minerals is what tangy
Well,
tangerine
that
is all
added up
about.
to 88. What the other two are what?
The other two of the 90 essential nutrients are essential fatty acids, and they cannot be in the tangy tangerine because they have to be oils. So those are your omega-3, 6, and 9. Those are fish oils. You get your fish oils along with your tangy tangerine, you are in great shape. That's a tangy tangerine. The OsteoFX is your bone supplement, right? So if you're dealing with bone density problems, you need to, you need more density in your bones, stronger bones. You want the OsteoFX.
So that you're less likely to break them.
Right. And the glucogel is like a miracle in a bottle. That is fantastic stuff. This is what Dr. Wallach calls the secret sauce. If you've ever heard him talk about the secret sauce, this is one of the secret sauces. The glucogel is fantastic. It is designed to help your body rebuild cartilage. It's to help with people with cartilage problems. Your joints. It's to help people with your joints. Now I got to watch the words that I use, which is why I stumbled around there. But it is
Structure and function is okay. I mean, structure function is okay.
structure function. We're talking cartilage here. Glucogel is amazing stuff, man. I give it a week, you'll feel it. Give it 3 months, you'll be a new person.
But not just it. It's it in concert with the rest of it,
You
right?
have to have all three of those, yeah.
Yeah.
You have
So-
to have those three because glucogel is fantastic, but it does not work as anywhere near as well without the OsteoFX. And everybody has to have the tangy tangerine. That's just a no-brainer. Those three things, money well spent.
And it really tastes good. Most vitamins taste like bleh.
Right.
But these taste. Tangerine is one of my favorite tastes, and it really does taste like tangerine, and it really is tangy.
One more minute here?
Yeah, take all.
The perfect person, if you're wondering, will this work for me? The perfect person is like the guy who stopped by yesterday, and I'm so happy for him. His wife is dealing with he says a bum hip, right? And she has a bad hip. Borderline surgery is where she is now. He says, I'm going to try this. I heard this is a perfect time to pick up a deal. He got a great deal, took home the stuff. I'm so excited for him and his wife because they are going to be just blown away, man. They're going to love the results. They're going to love it. If you're having that kind of problem, then you need to get down here and pick this up because we're having a sale, MC. The sale is going on today as well. If you are having problems with your hips, knees, back, come down here and pick up that combination. We'll get you hooked up. All right?
I want some more stories.
Boy, I got a million of them, MZ. I got a million of them. But
we should record them and put them on.
I have a microphone set out there. If somebody wants to come by and give us an unsolicited
There you go.
testimonial, right?
Yeah.
Stop by. We'll get you on a commercial. Maybe we'll hear you on George Norrie. But we got a microphone in there as well. So yeah, come down to Dave Cave.
I sent that commercial down, and I need to ping George because I didn't hear back. That great ad that you did with Critical Health News, which is where that's the site that John T. created just for the listeners of Coast to Coast AM.
I'll send you another one too because there should be two on there. One is the combination pack, and the other is
Okay, good.
Hartford X. Okay,
Good.
so I'll be out there until
Thank
2
you,
p.m.
Dave.
All right.
Fantastic.
Good to see you, Chris.
All right, good to see you, Dave.
Yeah, okay. If you want to call in and talk to Christopher J. Carr and poor old MZ and Griffin Queener, you can call 479-1080. That's in area 831. If you want to email me anytime, but particularly now during the show, mz@ksco.com is the email address. And so far, nobody has sent me anything today. So, all right. So let's go back to the phones here. Alan and Aptos.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Good.
I got a question. Actually, no, two things. Number one, that guy that called in that wanted to get some of that stuff, you should put him on as a regular comedian for a half hour once in a while.
I think I grabbed his phone number off of the caller ID. Unless
That was
I had to
fun.
squint, so I might have transposed a number or something or seen some, but I think I've got it. So yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, we have particularly intelligent and humorous and
Witty.
clever,
He was a
witty callers too, just like you are.
So number two, all these candies and brownies and stuff, I don't understand why they sell this little dinky candy, because I watched somebody, they're supposed to cut it into 4 pieces, otherwise it's too strong. They need to make a big enough candy you can enjoy eating a candy and get 1 dose. And a brownie where in the 60s, guys would eat 3-4 brownies and he wouldn't go crazy.
Alan, you sound like Alan in Pacific Grove, but today you're Alan in Aptos?
I resemble that.
Okay. So, am I right?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, but you're calling from Aptos because it sounds like you're driving, yeah?
Well, they asked where I was. I'm in Aptos.
At the moment, that's where I'm at.
Okay, good. Hey, he makes a very and you guys have music in common too.
Oh, cool.
Alan and I were in junior high school together.
Oh, nice.
And he had a band and he could play and when every time I'm singing that he can stand it and happens to be listening, he calls and counsels me a little bit, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So anyhow, that his suggestion to you.
Yeah, it's such a timely conversation too, because what they're doing now is they're making smaller dose everything. Everything's getting less dose, so you can enjoy. So we could avoid that experience you had, right? So if the dose wasn't 10 milligrams and you had 3 in a row, that would have been 30, which is too much. They're making certain candies 2.5 milligrams instead of 10. So that's titration is the name of the game now. And like I said, that was part of the hope I had for regulating the medical industry before we went full on legal. And this is just part of the growing pains of a new industry, learning these lessons.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah. But do you have any other great ideas, Alan, while we have you?
Oh, no, those are just my things. I'll get to you later. One of these days, I'll be able to give you some lessons online. I'm
There
doing
you
a
go.
teacher workshop right now at the Burning Ukulele Conference.
Oh, cool.
Wow. That is so, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, MC, you should learn from Alan. He's your buddy. That sounds great.
If he'll have me, he's very polite and he's a really good, but I don't think he realizes what he's offering. It could destroy his otherwise serene life.
Call me or email me. I can send you some stuff.
There you go. There you go. That's
Okay.
great.
Thanks, Alan. Have a
Thanks,
great
Alan.
one. We'll talk to you later. Appreciate your call to 479-1080. Daddy Bird, you're on the air.
I wonder if I could ask Chris if he has any children.
Children, no, I just got married in April.
Chris, what age should you let your child start smoking weed? What's a good age for them to start at?
Well,
Or ingesting
10,
it.
12?
I would say there's medical reasons where it may be more appropriate earlier, but with the development of, I'm also a part of a group called Community Prevention Partners, which is a youth prevention harm reduction coalition with regulators, law enforcement.
Sarah, what's the age? What do you think?
It's a hard question. It's not black and white. I think once their brain development is fully sound and they're capable, I feel like when your child is living on their own, paying their own bills, taking care of when they're officially adulting, then that's their appropriate time. And every kid, there are late bloomers. I feel like I was kind of early. I left home as soon as I could. I graduated high school and I moved to Santa Cruz. But not every kid's like that. So it's not a easy question to answer. I think if they have a medical reason, you should consult your medical professional, because I do think cannabis can be a nice alternative to other prescription drugs, and we've seen a bit of a epidemic happening in the prescription drug space.
Yesterday Mr. Harrison was on the same station.
He sure was. Yep.
He had a lady guest on, a doctor, who was talking about the vaping that goes on with younger kids, and apparently they're getting sick from some kind of process on the vaping.
Yeah, Dr. Delilah or Delia.
Yeah, the doctor.
I know her. She's a nice lady from Texas.
The doctor mentioned that there's psychotic effects on younger children with marijuana. So she spoke at some length about that. I guess she's a pediatrician. Have you had any experience with psychotic effects of young people with marijuana?
I think when we look at the data, causation and correlation are the key things you needed to keep in mind. Cannabis, the THC cannabinoid, not all cannabis can produce a psychoactive effect, but THC has the ability to produce a psychoactive side effect, and certain young kids, it's just not appropriate. It's not. That's why I do the prevention work with CPP, Community Prevention Partners.
I'm talking about psychosis, not a psychological effect or getting high. I'm talking about where the child has to be institutionalized.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a genetic. I mean, when you look at psychosis, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, there's usually a pattern in the genome of the family. And
so you think that's a genetic problem?
Yes,
with the
I
user?
think it's definitely the foundation of the risk is in the genetics of the child, and certain psychoactive substances can trigger psychosis. And
are you familiar with the Japanese study of marijuana usage, or the Swedish study, the army recruits? You know about that?
Which is that a recent study, or is this an older?
Well, the Japanese studies are ongoing right now, but there's been some publication of it. But the other one's about 10 years old. But the Swedes are still studying it. Do you know about that?
It's not specifically. I'm not too familiar with. I mean, there are a lot of studies happening in Israel, in Europe, and abroad.
And where in Israel? You say in Israel?
Israel's a major, mind in the field as far as research and data. Absolutely. Dr. Raphael Meshulam, Hebrew University in Tel Aviv. I participated in a cannabis medical conference at UCLA last year, and it's happening again this year in Pasadena.
Does he talk about the psychosis of youngsters using marijuana?
I think in general, when we pass legalization, it's not appropriate for youngsters. It's a 21 and up right now, and I would even say wait until 25. I mean, wait until your child is able to pay their bills and make a living and handle school, or if they don't go to school, they're starting their career, they're working, then that's the time for them to make their own decisions. But I think while they're still developing, a psychoactive cannabis product is probably not appropriate unless there's a medical reason, right? Unless there's something.
So you think some kids would have a medical reason to smoke marijuana?
Oh, I know physicians like Dr. Bonnie Goldstein that her specialty is pediatrics and cannabis, like epilepsy. Charlotte Figge, my wife's cousin has epilepsy. She went from 7 grand mal seizures a day to 0 using cannabis, and she started it when she was young. Yeah.
Did she try the other drugs first, or did she
Absolutely, and nothing worked. She had 0 license. She couldn't drive when she was in high school. She was pretty much a hermit with the conventional drugs, but through cannabis, she got her license because you have to have a certain amount of time without any seizures, and the cannabis was able to handle that neurological disease and disorder.
Okay. In the high school that one of my relations went to in Carmel High School, it seems like the kids there, their parents usually start smoking weed with them when they're about 14, 15. Are you saying that would be bad for them, or it's just illegal, or what's your opinion?
It's just not legal. Yeah, that's the issue I have. My official, like the law of Prop 64 states 21 and up, similar to alcohol. My wife is Italian. She was drinking wine with her Italian parents before 21. So I think there are cultural decisions that any family can make. But I also, I'm a very outspoken person on the radio, and I serve as a co-chair on this community group. So, I probably want to stay with what's legal. And right now the law says 21 and up.
Okay. How many of these people that are homeless in Santa Cruz have a marijuana background, do you think, as an expert? As an expert, what do you think? Out of the homeless people, what percentage do you think started off on marijuana?
Honestly, I think the majority is not as many as many that started on alcohol. I think alcohol is definitely the root of a lot of this mental illness.
We'll handle that in a minute. What about marijuana? How many people used marijuana that ended up homeless in Santa Cruz? Because that's a problem, from what I understand. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of underlying. I think we lost funding for mental health in our state and across the nation. That's part of the like I said, causation and correlation. There's correlations, but I don't think it's solely cannabis. I think it's the accumulation of a lack of support for mental health services from our local and state governments, and then the snowballing of alcoholism and other abusive substances. Cannabis is one substance, but I don't think it's as detrimental as alcohol, methamphetamine, opioids.
So do you think most of the people that are homeless are that way because they're alcoholics or because they use dope? Or what do you think it is? Genetic? Do you think it's a genetic problem they have? Or
I think they're mentally ill. I think they're mentally ill, and when you're mentally ill, you need help. You need medical professional help, and they haven't been able to achieve that, and so they find ways to cope. I don't think cannabis is essentially perpetuating their mental illness. I do think alcoholism kind of leads to a way of thinking that is not nuanced. It's very black and white, and then the other things that happen while living on the street. I'll be honest, I think meth is a bigger problem for mental illness, and that's correlated to that kind of substance, and then heroin.
Do people go straight to methadone, or do they go to some other drug first and then work their way up to... I'll tell you, the lady that's in charge of the marijuana program in the Netherlands says that people that use marijuana oftentimes get tired of the high and go to other drugs, including methadone. And she's pretty well positioned because she's the head of the Dutch Office of Drug Abuse and all that stuff. She knows all about that.
Well, and I could flip your logic upside down, and we see with veterans suffering from addiction, weaning off of other hard substances using non-intoxicating cannabinoids, right? And I know people personally that stopped drinking after years of alcoholism through the use of cannabis therapy. So there's a lot of, you got to follow the data. There's a lot of people saying a lot, but I don't see a lot of data backing that. But I know people here in this town, this community, the Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance.
Did you know, listen, I don't want to talk about veterans if you don't mind. Did you know about the Japanese study or the Swedish study or Dr. Glick's work at Stanford? Are you familiar with any of those things?
I am familiar with Stanford. I mean, you need to give me a little more. A Japanese study, there's many Japanese studies. I mean, that's not very, very specific. If you have a physician or a white paper, I'd love to learn more. I mean, that's what I do 40 to 80 hours a week is research this subject. And if there is a researcher with a certain finding, I'd love to have them on my show.
Chris, there's a house up in Stanford right close by called the, it doesn't matter the name of the house, but anyway, they have a house up there, and when the students have a psychotic break and they're a Stanford student, generally they end up and it's called a Silmar house, but generally they end up in there until they can get straightened out enough to go back to college. And oftentimes, quite commonly, they never do get good enough. They're permanently screwed up.
Listen, Daddy Bird, appreciate your call. A lot of good stuff. We've got to move on, okay? Here's Colonel Terry.
Yeah, first of all, I want to compliment Daddy Bird. That man is smart, informed, logical, and factual in his observations. And speaking of facts, I've listened to your Friday night program, and facts and data, I could pull up right now on the internet medical marijuana, drug facts, National Institute of Drug Abuse, dangers of marijuana to children, dangers of marijuana to everybody. The correlation of marijuana use to further drug addiction is overwhelming, whether it's the Dutch study or U.S. studies or others. And all of the data that Daddy Bird referred to is solid. The references by your guest, I think, doesn't make it sensible. And furthermore, on data, I know more than a dozen families in Santa Cruz whose kids started smoking grass and weed, marijuana, cannabis, at age 9 and 11 in Santa Cruz public schools. And guess what? 20, 30 years later, those same children are into drugs. One kid comes to mind. His mother showed me his Stanford test when he was 9. He was testing genius level. And then he got into sneaking marijuana and the rest, and the kid at age 42 has never been able to hold a job and lives with mother. There's more than a dozen examples of that. I can think of an attorney friend in Aptos. Same situation. 2 kids got started into drugs in schools here, and they're non-functioning. California's made a terrible mistake on not regulating marijuana, and furthermore, the people your guest is pushing who sell their product, they're going to continue to spike and hybridize the marijuana they're growing, so it becomes more and more addictive, and the trends that Daddy Bird described. The chemical content is the impact and reality of THC, plain and simple. We're going to regret we didn't restrict this to pharmacies. And would your friend agree with your guest agree that anybody who sells it, he said age 21 to buy it, would he agree anybody who sells to a kid age 14 ought to go to jail for life? That includes his sponsors and customers and those he's doing his transactionals with, as he described.
So, again, it's all written in Proposition 64. That is our state law. So I would double down on we're law-abiding citizens just like yourself, just like Daddy Bird.
You agree with me that there's a risk of increased potency by hybridizing it so it becomes increasingly addictive?
Well, the thing we see in hybridization right now is it's not so much addictive. The cannabinoids are actually, we're looking at more non-intoxicating cultivars. That's the passage of the 2018 Farm Bill. I mean, look at John Boehner, is former, Senate Majority Leader. He's on a board of directors of a cannabis company. Mitch McConnell is a massive advocate for hemp in the state of Kentucky. So what we're seeing here is a move away from intoxication and more industrial cultivation of hemp to make an alternative to cotton, and taking land away from Philip Morris and producing more non-intoxicating anti-inflammatory cannabinoids such as CBD. So
you should be embarrassed at your illogical non sequitur. Growing hemp as a replacement for cotton has nothing to do with growing cannabis and selling it to children and becoming addictive. And furthermore, John Boehner was not in the Senate; he was in the House, and John Boehner was known to be crooked when I was in Washington and sell out to anybody. He sold his soul to anybody who'd hustle for him. He could hustle for. That's the reality on him and cannabis. Furthermore, let's come back to do you agree? You yourself have said nobody under 21 should be buying this stuff. That's what you said. I've got the notes here. Well, do you agree that anybody under 21 who's using it and anybody who sells it to someone under 21 should be imprisoned? Question mark. Consistent with what you've said.
So this is where I stand. I think we have a broken incarceration system. I think perpetuating a prohibition that only supports nefarious, non-law-abiding, illicit market entrepreneurs, I think we should follow the law, sir. The law says 21 and up. However, Prop 64 is a 69-page law that the voters passed. So if you read that law, there are exceptions for medical reasons. So again, I would follow the law that the voters passed and to the T.
And medical marijuana could be provided by a prescription and at a pharmacy. That would solve the medical requirements that are legitimate. Do you agree, yes or no?
Well, the way the law is written is, yes.
No, not the law, the facts.
Well, the facts are it is a law. We passed Prop 64 in 2016, and we should follow that law. And so medical cannabis is being regulated on a state level by the law that we passed. And I'd say, yes, there's a need for going to your county, seeing a medical professional to get the necessary medical documentation. And then the way the law says is you go to a licensed retailer, which in pharmaceutical world is a pharmacy. In the medical cannabis space is a local cannabis retailer that's licensed and regulated by the Bureau of Cannabis Control in the state.
My last point is I'd be happy to debate you, Daddy Bird and I, jointly, and we'll tear you to shreds in terms of logic and facts and evidence. But KSCO, KSCO and his program should be obligated, like warning people about the addiction and the cancer effects of tobacco. You should have required at the top and bottom of your cannabis program to give warnings about cannabis becoming addictive, that it leading some taste to method drive, and that the law is you may not buy it in California under 21. You should not be using it, in the opinion of the program's hosts, until you are emancipated from home and on your own, fully as a functioning adult. That warning should be on that program, MZ, every Friday, and KSCO has an ethical and a moral obligation, and implicitly a legal obligation to put that warning on your crazy Friday night, everybody should be doing dope program.
Jesus, please feel free to speak your mind here, Terry.
My mind. Those are the facts, based on the evidence.
Okay. How can I thank you for calling the radio show?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Free speech.
Yeah.
Hard to follow a buzzkill there.
I'm glad you lightened the airwaves.
Hello,
it's like someone cut the cheese in a very, small
room.
Gotta
let it loose.
God,
loosen it up, man.
I mean,
it's too early for that kind of tone.
Terry is such a humorless man. He is so intoxicated with his intelligence.
His self-appointed intelligence and authority,
and his intelligence and his overbearingness and humorlessness is like a friggin' fart that you can't get out of the room. Drag down the whole program.
Ooh.
Okay, Andres, go on.
First, I wanted to take a guess.
Too loud. Get back away 5 feet from your phone, please.
Just better?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I take a guess of the name of the bank that you were going to name?
Well, it's
Sure.
more than one credit union, right?
No, you said you were going to name the state of California bank once they passed that assembly bill.
Oh.
He's going to save the URL, right? You're going to get the URL.
No comment, Andres.
All right, I'll skip that.
But I've already forgot. I forgot what that was about, and I forgot
wrote it down. You should
I
have wrote
forgot
it
the
down.
URL too. There's something wrong with my brains.
So
I have no
funny.
retention. Is this the beginning of Alzheimer's? I think it is.
Half banked or half danked, something like that.
Oh, that's good. That's funny.
So I called because I remembered that maybe last week, Dave Michael mentioned that for some reason, I think it's because of the FCC, you guys are not allowed to advertise that you have CBD oil products. And I don't think that's fair.
I don't think that's true. And either that or Dave, I think Dave. I didn't hear what he said.
Oh,
I believe that if it's THC, then there's a question.
Sure.
And if it's CBD, that there's no question.
No,
Does that sound right, Chris?
I know CBD is legal federally. It's descheduled and legal. That's why you see, CBD everywhere. Although there's still a lot of regulation to be, on a national level, needs to be drafted as far as the FDA and products. But yeah, you can talk about CBD and hemp on the airwaves because we
we're
decriminalized
talking about
it.
advertising now.
Oh, sure.
I think, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for Chris. Are you familiar with I think it's called a holding company for cannabis type products, and it's called Indus, INDUS.
Yeah, I visited their place in south of, and someone backed into my car there.
Oh no, what a bummer! But I know Indus. I definitely know who that is.
So my question about them is, don't they make money off of products that do contain THC?
Yeah, I think they're aligned with licensed operators in Monterey County. So there are manufacturing licenses and THC licenses. Distribution licenses that are for THC that are regulated by the Bureau of Cannabis Control, the BCC in Sacramento. And then, of course, the manufacturing piece is through the CDPH or DH. And then if there's any growing involved, that would be the California Department of Food and Agriculture. So these are all licensed operators under state regulators.
Even though they're licensed under state, that still doesn't clear them with the feds, right? This whatever they do, they have to do outside of the country. I've heard that they have all their business, their actual money business, their financial part. They have that out of Canada because of compliance issues federally. Correct?
Wow, that sounds pretty proprietary. I'm not privy to their books, but I could see that working absolutely. And there are a lot of Canadian operators that are funding businesses in the state of California, but that goes anywhere in the United States, right? They're also funding startups in Oklahoma because they just passed recreational in Massachusetts and Boston. I think New York State just decriminalized cannabis. So there's a lot of Canadian funding happening in American domestic cannabis operations all over the country.
Right on. I was just going to point out how unfair it would be if KSCO is not allowed to advertise CBD products while at the same time this induced company is sponsoring events of Jimmy Panetta for re-election. So, he's got a federal seat and his campaign is taking money from them, and he posted it. It's not something that I'm outing. He's putting that out there on his own. Getting money from companies that make money off of THC and selling it to God knows who, maybe even children. And you guys are restricted on what you can say on the radio. I just think that's really unfair, and I wanted to point that out there. I don't know if it's illegal. It seems like it should be.
I'm going to have to talk to Jimmy about that.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, and I think that is a nice. It's a nice compliment to the other callers' feedback too. It's not just Jimmy Panetta too. Gavin Newsom had a lot of campaign contributions from members similar to Indus type donors and operators.
Well, yeah, just putting that out there, and if anybody wants to look it up, I'm not lying about it.
More money than the Lord.
The Lord. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Lord Zwerling.
Hey, that's what Alex Jones called me. He coined that name for me.
Lord Zwerling.
And I sort of like it.
It's a good name.
Lord Zwerling.
You need a wizard cap or something. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, maybe I should start the Lord Zwerling show.
That's a good one. I like it. It's kind of mystical.
All right. Hey, thank you, Andres. Always.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Here's next caller is. Oh my God! It's Jim in Santa Cruz about addiction.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. Are you going to be indignant like Colonel Terry?
No.
Thank God.
No. I just did want to say one thing that they have made great strides to legalize marijuana, over the past several years, and they really haven't figured out the environmental piece of it yet, because it seems like, all these outdoor grows, they're always you know, there's a lot of violence that surrounds them with, you know, the Mexican, you know, gang members and stuff that they hire to watch these places, and then all the forest fires that happen. You know, every year there's a fire up in like Bear Creek, up by Deer Creek, and it's somebody's grow up there, and it's like, it's really the outdoor stuff that's so, it's bad for the environment. I don't understand why the environmental activists aren't up in arms about the negative environmental impacts of to our water supply and everything else with the outdoor grows. And I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, because my farm's all outdoor in the native terroir of a ranch near Happy Valley, and this is a big issue. Personally, hits close to home for me because I work really hard on stewarding the land and stewarding the environment. There is a movement in the cannabis community called the regenerative agricultural movement, which is very aligned with organic farming best practices and closing loops on the land. I think the most conscious and regenerative grow is going to be a licensed grow. When you are unable to become into the legal space, that's when you start pulling out the scary, products that degrade. But when you're licensed and highly regulated, by default, let me just tell you the truth. By default, I don't use any sprays. I don't use any bottled anything. I use worms, water, soil, seed, sun. That's it. I dry in a barn.
And worm castings.
Well, the worms do the magic once they're in the ground. And a lot of the worms are already in the ground.
Dumb question I did ask.
But the castings are there because every time I dig up a weed or I look around any wet spot, there's tons of worms under the surface. So
I'm always concerned about the fire danger too, and I think that, I know that the sheriff has been clamping down big time on the folks in Boulder Creek growing outdoors, and they're making a big push to get everybody that is growing to do it in like a warehouse down in, they want that. What they would like to have is like a warehouse down in, Watsonville or someplace like that that's really controlled, that's not in a wooded area, and that's indoors. That's what they're shooting for. But there's so many people with these crazy outdoor grows that aren't safe and that are bad for the environment. And then also, they say that one out of I have some police friends, and they say about one out of 4 houses is a grow house, and this is just like a residential house, like in the San Lorenzo Valley or something like this. And it's like, these people haven't like redone like the wiring to handle the increased loads, or called, JM Electric or one of your advertisers to come out and tighten it up down there for them. And that's,
do you think
I'm just surprised that like one of these houses hasn't just made the whole valley burn down with all.
Do you think JM Electric should do a specific commercial for grow house people?
They would make, if they said, listen, we'll
no
come
judgment.
down there and look at your old Zinsco panel and redo all the wiring. They would make a ton of money probably.
Well, and to make the neighborhood safer, I think that is important. And I think this is a tough issue too, because the county's been struggling to regulate license. We have one licensed farm in the whole county. Right. We have like hundreds pending, and a lot of people going through this heavy process. The planning department is a very hard group to. I'm sure everyone listening knows how hard it is to develop anything in this community through the planning department. And so my advice is to encourage our local leaders to streamline and to support the planning department so that we can get more people licensed, because the more licensed operators, the better, because it's going to, by default, decrease the odds of a fire, because these people are highly regulated licensed operators.
Right.
And that's the issue, is we just don't have enough licensed operators, so it perpetuates an illicit market. So we're in this transition. It's a tough time, but growing pains in any new industry. But it's good to have these conversations. I really appreciate it, and I'm right there with you, man. I feel for any farmer, but at the same time, I'm here to preserve and steward the environment, and I want Santa Cruz to be wonderful for generations.
Let me ask you this real fast, and then I'll get going. So say they decided, you know what, our way of regulating people growing in a safe way that doesn't harm the environment, that doesn't cause forest fires or have, random, Mexican nationals with machine guns hiding out in the woods or booby traps. I mean, there's so many negative things. Not in your grow probably, but I mean, just around in the woods, in the valley. It's crazy. I mean, I remember hearing stories from when I was a kid of people coming up on all kinds of booby traps and things like this out in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, what if the county said, okay, we're going to allow you guys to grow, but all grows have to be indoors from now on, and all outdoor grows, no matter how big or small, we're going to get rid of them, and we're going to come seize them, and there's just going to be an end to outdoor growing, because indoor is the only way that we can actually regulate and control the growing space and everything else. What would you think? Now, if they made that change, what do you think would happen? Do you think people would freak out and lose their minds, or do you think that would be good or bad? What's your opinion?
I think it's bad because the best asset we have as farmers is the sun. And when we go from using what we have in Santa Cruz, what most of the world doesn't have is a Mediterranean climate. So when you go inside deliberately and not leverage, we don't farm blue ribbon grapes indoors in warehouses. That's silly.
True.
That's silly. We are just like vintners. What we do, wherever grapes grow and blue ribbon wine is grown, cannabis is the same. I want to see Santa Cruz become what Napa Valley is to wine, but we got to do it right. And you can't just take everything inside, because think about the amount of money and PG&E. Look at PG&E is the leading cause of forest fires. Our grid, our infrastructure is. So what I want to do is empower family farms to do it right, do it legal, get compliant. I would say this is what I would take from your comment is have the county just give licenses away while they transition through, not give them away, but make it very easy to become licensed first, and then you have like a probationary period to get all the planning hoops and hurdles done. But if you want to become a cannabis farmer, it's like a one-page application, and you're under this like probationary period of review, but you are able to get licensed first. That way, everyone that's doing it has to follow the rules. Right now, when you make it so hard to even get into step one, everyone by default is just daunted and continues to do an illicit operation, which has generators or maybe cartel related, and that just perpetuates all these issues that we both care about. I think if the county just gave a blanket permission with the clauses, hey, if you violate these terms, we're taking away that license. But you have to show up at these dates with planning. You have to submit these plans. You have to have a land use operator, planner, and an architect, and you have to be by the book. But it's not like do it all up front and not operate for years. But let the farmers farm. Let them leverage the best asset they have, which is Santa Cruz sun and our lovely Mediterranean climate, just like grape growers. I mean, grape growers,
you guys really have to model the wine industry big time.
Absolutely.
I mean, you don't hear about, wineries being mass pollutants or having people guarding their grapes with machine guns, you guys really have to, like, as a whole, just the outdoor growers.
Well, that's because grapes weren't illegal like pot was.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, you guys have to get. You
said the best. I agree with you 100%.
You're a great caller. Thank you for calling 479-1080, and we're gonna have to move on.
Let's grow like grape growers.
Our next caller, Lucas in Soledad. Real quick, Lucas. I'm sorry, we only have less than 10 minutes left. So.
Yeah, no problem. What? I was just curious. I mean, I know a couple people that is on CBD. I guess that's what it's called. Where it, a doctor prescribed it to them, and they have a card that says that they really need this. Okay, and to help their nerves. Okay, but I've been to a couple of those places where I've actually seen, a lot of people going into a place, and you think, well, they don't need that, and it's kind of recreational, I'm assuming. What is your feeling on that? Because doesn't that become addictive?
The recreational side is legal now, and I'll be honest, caffeine is more addictive. Alcohol is certainly more addictive. Nicotine is more addictive. The dependency from using cannabis is only psychological. We have yet to find data to correlate a physical dependency to using the plant. The people that use it too much have a psychological habit, which is very different from alcoholism and very, very different from nicotine abuse. So there are people going and using cannabis recreationally. That is now legal, via the passage of Prop 64. And maybe they're recreating with cannabis as an alternative to alcohol or nicotine, which claims so many lives every year. We have yet to see, even though MZ had an uncomfortable experience, he didn't die from using cannabis. Although if you drink too much, you can die.
Yeah.
And if you smoke too much, you definitely will die of tobacco. So, harm reduction is a big, important conversation here, and we need more research. We need more data. That's why we have this show every Friday night, is to hold space and open a dialogue with the community.
Thank you, Lucas, for calling the KSCO Saturday Special. Now we're going to go to Gordu in in Deer Creek. Are you actually in the creek, Gordu?
Actually, I own part of the creek. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it's good and bad. As you alluded to earlier, we have
Talk louder. I got you cranked up all the way, and it's just
we have a lot of issues up here. The fires, the degradation of environment, the mass slaughter of the forest. But I didn't want to talk about the environment issues. I wanted to talk about the veterans' access to THC. Currently, the Veterans Administration has a policy that if they detect THC in your system, they will not issue opiates, which puts a lot of us in a real serious bind here where we can't get off of the opiates. I've done that with the use of marijuana, cut way down on my use of opiates as I have chronic pain issues. I've been through a number of surgeries and so forth. So my question is, what effort is being made at the national level to change the laws federally so that we as veterans can get access without penalty to THC specifically?
That's a great question. It's an ongoing effort. Dr. Sue Sicily is a physician working with veterans. She's been working with many of our local veterans. She actually is a high-profile researcher that was fired from her position at the University of Arizona for conducting these studies with veterans and gathering that data. Weed for Warriors is an advocate group working on this. The Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, MAPS, their headquarters is here in Mission Street. They are also working on a national level to change the laws, especially advocating with the VA. There's a film that was put together, From Shock to Awe, I think it's what it's called, and it's all about this veteran story. And the other thing is 22 a day. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide. And, we've seen cannabis be therapeutic for depression as a confrontation to depression, which can lead to these tragic suicides all over. And so this is a very timely subject, and there are major groups working diligently on this, but I think it's more public. We need to lobby our representatives in Congress and get bills passed via either the House or Senate, because the more public discourse and the more awareness around this subject, the more we can demand action. And unfortunately, things are taking a long time in the bureaucracy, and so it's an ongoing debate. But I think it's really compelling, your testimony, and I appreciate your call very much. I think it's a very important subject.
Thank you, Gordu. We move on to Josh in Hollister.
Hi, you were talking about the regulation and the everything that we're waiting for on that to happen. I've been in agricultural food safety for about 10 years now, and in my experience, the regulatory body, the way things work, the bureaucracy that you just mentioned, it's stifles. It actually stifles innovation, in my experience. It causes certain things that no other market forces can do. And it brings to bear sometimes what I find is that people that don't necessarily know the subject, they don't know, what goes into farming, what goes into, agriculture, farming, marijuana, or anything like that. They're the ones that are deciding, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to do it that way. And the only solution that I truly see is, it used to be you had a name, you had a brand, that's what mattered. And a man's word was his handshake, and the other way around. But nowadays everybody is, we're Primus certified, or we've got these third-party auditing companies, and people don't actually go and find out where their food comes from, how it's grown, what's involved in it. And I think the only really way to solve any of this is to, insist that people take responsibility for themselves, know where your product's coming from, know where your food's coming from, know where your medicine's coming from. And if people more, straight up involved in that whole process, we wouldn't need the overly burdensome bureaucracy to tell us what to do.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. Hate to cut you off. We got to move on. Rich in Salinas, you're on real quick.
Yeah, hi, Mike. Have you ever talked to Dr. Wallach about marijuana and what his take on it?
I don't think so, no. But I will.
I'd be interested in finding out what he thinks about all this.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's like anything, abuse of anything, whether it's marijuana or gambling or eating food, you can do it in moderation, and maybe it's great, and if you do too much, it could be bad for you.
Right. Okay, thank you. Real quick, Rory, you got a question? We only got a minute or two, so go.
Okay. With one legal outside grow, if I understood you correctly, what are all the other ones, and who's running them, and is there foreign cartel money operating in the states?
Not yet, but working on it. Right,
there's one legal one, and there's many in the queue to get through the planning department. We've only had one successfully jump through all the right hoops on a local license. A lot of people got local letters of authorization, which gave them a temporary license with the CDFA. So there's many farms in the county. However, a lot of them are transitioning through the local process. And it's just taking a lot longer than it should, to the point of our last caller. He had some really insightful points that I appreciate.
Yeah. So, okay. There you have it. Apologies to Nick and Nathan. That's the end of the show. And
we got a nice, huge amount of callers at the end there. It started small.
It sort of tends to work that way.
Gotcha.
So, Griffin, are you ready for the cue at T-minus 16 seconds, which will be in about 30 seconds from now? Okay, so Christopher Carr.
Yes.
Okay, you and I have to talk about your show, maybe a different time, or all kinds of things.
All kinds of things to talk about.
There is no end to. Did you enjoy the show, Griffin Queener?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Okay, good.
Very
good. So, and you know what the greatest thing about it is going to be? It's going to be bracketed by the that's all, the correct that's all, folks, starting right now.
That's all, folks.
KSCO, Santa Cruz, Salinas, Monterey, 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 Salinas, Monterey,